everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Stu and Marty podcast. Welcome, Stu.
Marty, good to be back again. Whoa, who would thought we would last this long? Wow,
Yeah, I know, exactly.
already.
let's see if we can make it to the end of this one, or maybe get to 3. How's that sound?
Wow, I love a man with a goal. Oh, that's what we're talking about today. Oops.
Yeah, exactly. So last episode, we obviously spoke about being proactive versus reactive, which was a great topic, great amount of information that we provided, and the feedback's been excellent. So
yeah, how good is that?
Stu, well done. Yeah, it's been really good. So what we wanted to move on from that episode onto an episode called How We Build Goals. So I know this sounds really simple, but it's actually quite difficult. And to be honest, I'm pretty rubbish at it too. So it's about how we drive our effort and the focus we need to put into it. It's actually something I'm really excited about because, to be completely honest, mate, I am shit at setting goals and following through. So how do you go with goals?
Yeah, look, it depends, Marty, because there's some I'm really good at. My tendency's been in my sport background. I was quite good at it. I would give myself a sort of 7 or an 8. In some of my times in work career, I've been sometimes at 9. Other times I've been a 4, and there's been so many variables in there. And I guess one of the things I'm keen to talk about today is what makes those variables so variable. And there's a couple of crackers that really get in the way, and we touched upon them last time, but I really want to associate the proactive reactive piece and then tie it into how we go around the goal setting. So the structure and the process plan, because there's some seriously hard work for some of our brains, especially when we're trying to do things that we may not be excited about. So, how many guys, I don't know about you, you get to that New Year's Day thing and here's 5 things I'm going to do. And then 3 days later, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So there's a whole bunch of things that step in the way. And there's a couple of simple ones I think that you and I have talked about before, but in all the years I've been doing this kind of work, which is, it's getting scary now because it's 23 years I've been doing this stuff. I learned just as much by talking to my clients and the people I know around this. It's a two-way thing. And so some of those things we should cover today, and I'm sure that the feedback we'll get will let us know if there's some other things that people want us to cover. I'd love to hear some of their feedback around that. It'd be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we'll have our Facebook page, which is essentially facebook.com/Stu and Marty. We've got the YouTube channel. We'll get all those details up so people can drop us a comment, drop us a line or anything like that to get in touch and give us some ideas. So thinking about how we build goals, my initial question, or I guess the point I wanted to raise is, let me get this right. Jim Collins wrote Good to Great. And in there, he has quite a famous saying: big, audacious, hairy goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, whichever way it goes. And there you go. And I think it sets us up for an area where goals don't have to be that big, or do they have to be that big? I mean, can they be the opposite of a small, shaped, modest goal? Maybe. I don't really know, but
I'm a visual person. Really I just went small and shaved. No, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the point is how big do goals need to be? How small can they be? I think we should probably start there and set up some structure around that.
Good start. First bit I really want to say is that I don't need to teach anyone goal setting. Right? Okay. We do it every day.
Okay. Yeah. Good point.
Okay. So when you get up in the morning and you've had a bad night and you go, oh my God, I feel crap. I better have a shit day today. That's goal setting.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's Tuesday. I have a crap day at work today. That's goal setting. My children aren't very good at sport. That's goal setting. And so anytime you take a belief system, repeat it, and think about it, it's a framework of goal setting inside your brain. It's your brain setting you up for an outcome.
Yeah, and that's the reticular activating system that we use in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which we will continue to talk about and touch on because you and I both use it quite a bit. Yep. If the red light, green light thing, if you say you're going to get all the red lights, all you will notice is the red lights because your brain said, "Oh, hang on a minute, we weren't going to get any green lights, so therefore I'm only going to count or notice the red lights." And that's the same thing with when you wake up and say today's going to be a shit day. Almost guarantee it's going to be a shit day.
Yeah. But the big one for me, man, this is where, when I read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Jesus,
yep. 1960, how good's that?
All right.
You weren't born, but I was, unfortunately.
Shit, no.
Thank you. Oh, that makes me good. But one of the things he said was, you'll move in the direction of your foremost dominant emotional thought pattern, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Now, if that's true, and it is in my world, what you think about is what you make come true.
Yeah.
Right. But the number one goal your brain has, according to his work, is your number one goal is to keep you.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I have to process that a little bit. But
yeah,
I get it.
it's all like, not only do we think, but we have to think about what we think. It's the same kind of brain markup, really, isn't it? I said markup, by the way. But the brain's job is to keep you. So I really don't want you to change. So one of the things that people often talk to me about is, why is goal setting so hard? Well, because your brain doesn't want you to.
Okay, gotcha.
So we talked a little bit about the limbic system and the reptile system. They're not interested in change. They're interested in same. Same equals safe.
Safe.
And so
different equals danger.
I want to keep doing things exactly the same way. My brain doesn't care whether it's good or bad for me. If it keeps me alive, tick, I'm done.
Yeah.
So this is the first bit around goal setting. I reckon is really important. Is that I don't need to teach you goal setting because you already do it. But do we do it consciously and deliberately, or do we do it unconsciously and automatically? And now we've got a completely different conversation. So today's one is really talking about how I lift people from unconscious and automatic goal setting, because you're going to be doing it, to conscious and deliberate. Now, all forms of conscious and deliberate behavior take focus and effort and structure and process. And that's really what we need to talk about today.
Yeah. Structure. We all know that's a word that I'm not that comfortable with, but hey, I'll learn to get comfortable with it. So, okay. So let's maybe kick off then with, what we know is the goals can really be any size. Essentially, they can be, I want to lose 10 kilos. I want to quit smoking. I want to earn another $50,000. I want to do this. I want to do that. They could be this week. I would like to cut out ice cream from my diet.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't have to be big and audacious, as they say. So when we think about goals then, what's your thoughts on, I guess, the question around what stops people from attaining or getting or reaching their goals?
Yeah. So, and you've touched a bit of it there, Marty, which I reckon is one of the crucial steps, is that we have people that I work with, that you work with, and they come along to a course or a program, and they set what I think is reasonably challenging goals. So, I use scores out of 10. So where are you now, which we'll talk about later. So I've got people who go, I'm a 2. And you go, okay, so where would you like to be? I'd like to be a 10. Where would you like to be at 10? Tomorrow or the next day or next week. And you sit there and go, okay. And so for me, it's not about the fact that they, if some people want to set these big, hairy, audacious goals, absolutely comfortable with that. But do I have the expertise, the skill, the background? And for me, I go back to sport, as I do in lots of my analogies. So if today I haven't run a race for 4 years and I go out and say, I want to run a 4-minute mile, there's a fair chance I'm not going to have it happen. So, the brain is like any other organ in our body. Repetition grows strength, repetition grows skill, repetition develops the ability. So I think one of the things that I talk to people a lot in my coaching sessions is, where's your background in doing some of the things that you're going to ask your brain to do, or are we building from a base level? And you've got to really approach it from that. Where's my competency? Where's my expertise? Where are some of the things that I already do that I can take in and mold in and use here? But if you're starting fresh, I start small. Now, that's not because I'm trying to take away their vision. It's I want to build the skill, the expertise, the competency, the ability, and more importantly, the belief system that I can.
Important, isn't it?
Yeah, wow, because if there's one thing that's going to shoot you in the ass when this happens, you're sitting there with I've got this big goal, and the little voice inside your head's going, geez, you're an idiot. You've never done this shit before. You've done 15 goals in the last 6 months, and they've all turned into custard. What, really? Seriously? And if you can't challenge that little voice with, no, but wait a minute. Here's what I did last week. So we want to build track record, and sometimes starting small is good. Not against the big, hairy, audacious goals, but for lots of people, start small, build big. That's my plan for most people.
Yeah, I think that belief system is obviously really important. If, you need to believe that you can do it. And our job as coaches, one of the biggest things I think our responsibility is to give people that, or help people with that belief. And how do we do that? By going, okay, let's start small. Let's see what you've done in the past. Let's build from here. And then eventually we'll build to that big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
So, the belief system is important. So I'm really glad you raised that. So some of the other things that we've spoken about in the past as well, and those that have worked with us probably know this as well, that one of the big things for people not achieving goals is it's not really their goal.
Oh, yeah.
Big one. Especially, I mean, we do a lot of work in automotive. As a sales manager or previous sales manager, as a general manager of a dealership, and I would turn around and say to someone, you've got to sell 12 cars. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And then at the end of the month going, why didn't that dickhead do what I told him to do or asked him to do? It's an interesting one, because then you go back, and in hindsight's a beautiful thing as a manager and a leader. We all know that, even as a coach and a trainer. But when you're setting them up for something that isn't their goal, it's not that they don't want to achieve it. You've just got to get there and make it their goal, so they go after it in the way that they know best. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, you've done good. The conversation that we've had before, and we have with lots of people, is if you don't own the goal, you'll never own the process and the desire to make it happen. One of the things when I did my NLP training, like you did, Marty, was when I sat down and the guys talked about that thing called emotional attachment. Because if you don't have the desire for the goal, you'll never put together a stringent process or structure that's going to allow you to achieve it, nor will you hold yourself to account.
Yep.
And I don't know how many times, like you, in running dealerships or running businesses that I've been involved with, you walk out to someone, you've given them the goal, and then they talk around it, and then 3 months later, then they hit you right between the eyes and goes, it was never my goal. I really don't care about it. And I really didn't like the structure of the process. And you go, mm-hmm. But the thing so in management though, and this is where I find it really interesting, there's a bunch of research that says most of the work done in businesses, dealerships or any other businesses, is the manager doing it. Why is the manager doing it? I set the goal, I set the process. And one of my favorite things in psychology is in any system or environment, the person who cares the most will always do the most work. As a leader, I'm setting the goal, I'm probably doing the most work. Yeah. And there was a wonderful survey came out of Harvard University a couple of years ago that said 82% of the work being done by most leaders is delegated by people who don't care about the goals. How good's that?
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it? I remember having a conversation with someone. Yeah, scary. I remember having a conversation with someone once. They were a salesperson, and I said, the manager and setting the goal and doing whatever. And they said, I'm not a manager. I said, oh, okay, right. So who manages you? Well, my manager does. And I said, no, who manages you and what you do and how you operate day to day? And he sort of looked at me like, what? And he had the aha moment. And I'm like, I get that you're not a manager by your name or your position, but what you do all day, every day around, like you said, setting your own goals and doing whatever is up to you. And you've got to take control of that situation. And like we said, people generally may not achieve a goal because it's not their goal. Therefore, the other reason why they don't achieve a goal is because they're not emotionally attached to it, which you've mentioned, and we also mentioned in our last episode. That's really important. So it's up to us to find that emotional attachment. How that looks or what that feels like is really up to the individual, because we're all different, right? Our maps of the world are all individual. So
when I'm working with people, Marty, and I talk to people and they trot out a goal or an aspirational focus for the future, and my number one question is, how will it feel for you to achieve that? And if they can't answer that, we really don't have much to go forward for. How would it feel for you to achieve that? What would it be for like, what will it be, what, I can't even say it properly. What will it be like for you when that dream comes to fruition? What are three things you'll be able to do today that you can't do now? And if they can't answer those questions, we got to do some work to help them get those pictures. And we'll put those questions up on the website.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're really important questions for people to think about. What's it going to be like when I get to the goal? If you can't answer that, if you can't think about it, and more importantly, if you can't repetitiously remind yourself, you will get dragged back into the past, because that's what your brain's going to do for you anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so great examples of why we're not achieving goals, or it's harder to achieve goals. I think some of the other things that we've spoken about in the past is got busy doing other shit.
Yeah,
for want of a better term.
Yeah,
and that probably even leads into one of the other ones is I didn't create an activity plan.
Well, there are two bits to that, and that's a really great piece of conversation, Marty. But there are two bits for me. So first of all, we know, going back to that conversation from our NLP stuff and our brain stuff, is that I want to keep you. Right. So I'm going to take you back to what you know and what you feel. So comfort zone comes into play. And I'm going to hold up all these other issues that get in the way during the day. And I'm going to tell you why you should be doing it. And, you know, I love Joe Dispenza's work, and he's another author you and I have talked about. But he says if you're really serious about goal setting and focus forward, you should be thinking about, emotionally thinking about a goal or aspirational vision, whatever you want to call it, 3 to 5 times a day.
Yeah,
right? And I have people who come to me and go, "Oh, Stuart, I've been doing my goal setting." I say, "Oh, yeah, good. How's that?" "Oh, yeah, look, I looked at my goal once a month." And I go, "So you're going to have 30 days of unconsciousness and 10 minutes of consciousness, and that's supposed to override them." So this bit about how often am I going to get conscious about my goal is crucial. Dispenza says 3 to 5 times a day. I've done that with some of my stuff, and I've found it unbelievably valuable. And the number of times, you know, I've stopped in the middle of the day going, I am so far off track already. It's not even funny. How do I get back? And so my question for myself when I do that is, how do I get back on track? As opposed to calling myself derogatory names, which I could have done in the past. Because one of the things that happens with people is they find themselves off track and they give themselves some negative self-talk. I understand why that happens, not my model. Positive self-talk. How do I get back on track? I deserve better than that. My plan today was I need to do this. So there's some really nice things around the language and talk around that, but the repetition of the thought process is crucial. Am I revisiting it and refocusing it?
Yeah, exactly. And that leads into one of the other points that we've spoken about before. And I guess all of our listeners now realize that you and I talk quite a lot about a lot of things, and we have for a lot of years. So we'll always be referring about the conversations we've had. I guess that's why we're here, because we find ourselves pretty entertaining and knowledgeable.
Yeah, and good looking.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, exactly. So the other thing is that leads into one of the reasons why people aren't achieving their goals is I didn't get a coach or a buddy to help me or support me along the way. And one of the reasons why we don't do that is because do we really want someone to hold us to account to the stuff and that we know we should be doing to be successful in our goal attainment? So it's critical.
And I don't like it. I have a coach. I meet with her, talk to her every fortnight. She says stuff to me that I probably wouldn't appreciate from anyone else, but you know, I've known her for a long time, but there are some times when she gives it to me, you know, and the reason I like it is that because it's going to someone, because I can delude myself. I can tell myself I'm doing a good job, but it's like when I played football, you know, and you'd be standing there and the coach goes, okay, we're going to do 400-meter sprints. And, you know, the first one you do in, I don't know, 48, 50 seconds or something. And then he goes, you do the second one and you're really tight. He goes, well, you did a crap job. And I go, no, I really worked. He goes, no, that was 60. That was 12. And you go, oh, I'm really doesn't matter. It's that external piece of feedback, because humans are very good at deluding themselves, me included. I'm doing a great job. Really? I'm really working hard. And I'm not criticizing the evaluation, but for me, having an external person feedback is crucial. The other one, absolutely. And this is the other bit that's really important for me in this conversation, Marty, is that when we go into activity, we go into unconsciousness. Right? And as soon as you go into unconsciousness, you lose awareness. Right? And so, you know, I don't know how many times I've spoken to people in coaching sessions where I've got really strong data that they may or may not have done something, and I hold it up to them and they go, no, I didn't do that. That's not me. I go, well, I've got you on a DVD saying that. No, it wasn't me. Now, that sounds like some of the political leaders we have in place at the moment. It seems to be an okay thing to do. Here's a telephone conversation you had with a person. That wasn't me. They introduced themselves as you, but gee, it's that kind of stuff.
It's interesting.
And it's quite amazing the value of that stuff. I don't like it because it makes me sometimes go, I'm not as good as I thought I was be, or I'm not as good as I'm pretending to be. And I get that piece. But, you know, one of my real frameworks for everyone, if you're going to be serious about your goal setting, have someone who's independent to you, who can watch you, see you perform, act or behave, so they can give you feedback. Because
I think you need to be very, very clear in that.
Yeah.
who that person is in that relationship, because there's a good chance they're going to be telling you things that you don't want to hear, uninterested in hearing, and it could hurt a little bit. But if you don't have that relationship with them, or give them permission to act and behave and tell you what is real,
Yeah.
then it's a waste of your time anyway. So it's a really interesting one. And I think this is where it's hard. If you're thinking about professional goals, and then you go into your direct line manager or leader or whoever that person is, you've got a personal relationship with them. You spend a lot of time with them, 8 hours a day or whatever the numbers are. So when they start telling you things that you've asked them to tell you, it can get a little bit testy at times. So you've got to be really mindful of that and how you go about it and who that person is to have the most amount of effect, I would think. So
and there are a couple of bits that go with that, Marty. I think it has to be done by invitation, because if you don't invite the person into that relationship, then you don't listen to them very well. Number one. The other one is you and I both know in NLP, they talk about the two motivators for movement are the movement away from pain and the movement towards pleasure.
Yeah.
Sometimes the coach's job is to give you pain, because if they don't create pain, but the problem we have with the human brain is that if we move away from pain only, we don't always move towards pleasure. So why goal setting becomes important is that if someone comes up to you and goes, Marty, there's a couple of ways you could have led that course today that are different, and you sit there going, oh yeah, well, okay, but this will make you a better presenter, or if I can show you how this new behavior will accelerate to your goals, you're more likely to listen to it, and you'll see it as information that allows you to grow as opposed to criticism. And that's a really important differential for the brain anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So think of that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, so just to finish that one off. So, sometimes coaches can create pain, and I'm not pretending I like it. I see its value. But where my coach is really good, when she gives me some feedback, she goes, so how does that awareness accelerate you? How does that awareness move you? How does that accelerate you, help you get to the goal? And so she takes me straight back to my goals every time and associates the learning and the movement at the same time.
Yeah, which, and I always say, and I'll always continue to say, these questions are the best answers to everything. So I think, she does an amazing job there. So you mentioned the word before. This probably leads quite well into, because I know exactly what model you're gonna. I think I know what model you're gonna use here. What's the first 1, 2? What's the first 1, 2, or 3 things you ask or advise someone to do to get them on the path of their goal?
Okay, great question. So I'm a growth model person. Look at the smile. Oh, gee, I wasn't expecting that, Stuart. What a surprise. So, and I don't mind where they start with goal or reality, which is the first two parts. So GROW stands for goal, reality, options, will. Some people, I sit down in coaching sessions and they just open up and go, here's my pain. Pain is reality. All right. So they tell, here's what's going wrong. Here's what I don't like. Here's not what I'm comfortable with. And I don't mind them starting there, but if I leave them there, they're going to go into reactivity. Don't really want that. Want proactivity.
Yeah,
so
I understand.
Got to get their brain to goal. So questions of what would you like this to be? How would you like to be? If you could change the situation to make it better for you and the people around you, what would that look like? And we'll put a bunch of questions on the website that show, here are, I think we've got about 8 or 10 questions in the current model, which I'm happy to put on. But when I get people to goal and I go, so give that goal a score, like would it be an 8 out of 10? I use that numeracy piece because it really helps the brain understand the task. So let's say they go, okay, that goal is a 10. Then I want to go back to the reality question and go, okay, so where are you now? All right. And so I'll give you an example. I won't tell you the person, but I had a coaching conversation with someone on the phone the other day. He talked about his goal. He was a guy in middle management who wanted to become a general manager. And we talked it through. He goes, so being a general manager would be a 10. They go, great. That's fantastic. And then we sat down and go, okay, so where are you now? And he goes, and I thought he was going to cry. He was really emotional. He goes, I think I'm a 2. And I went, excellent.
Wow, I love the honesty.
And it was brutal honesty. And he's sitting there and I go to him, Ben, what makes you 2? He goes, what does it matter? I go, yeah, because we build success on success. You're a 2. There's something that you're doing. And he found a couple of cracking things, Marty. And you could just see him lift. And he goes, but 10's so far away. I go, 10's not the goal today.
No.
Three's the goal.
Yeah.
So let's talk
Yeah,
about.
excellent, mate. Well done.
So where do we go to? Oh, we're going to go to 3. Okay. How soon? And he goes, I think 6 to 8 weeks would be great. So all of a sudden he's looking forward, proactivity. So then I'm going to go. So, and then I'm going to help him out and go, so if we're able to get to 3 in the next 6 to 8 weeks, how would that feel for you? What would you be able to do that you don't do now? What difference would that make for your team? And we started to future tense him. Goal setting, proactivity, and off he went. And then I just said to him, okay, great. So we got to you on that. So we need to talk about, now, you know, I know both, we do it different ways. And sometimes, and I chose the start, stop, do more, do less conversation.
Yeah, I understand.
Right. So I've got his goal, I've got his reality, and I go, okay, what are 1 or 2 things you can start doing? What are 1 or 2 things you can stop doing? What are 1 or 2 things that you currently do, you can do them more often? And what are some things that you're doing now that you could do less? And he cranked it out in a heartbeat, Marty. And it was like,
great.
And he skipped out of that conversation. He rings me 3 days later and he goes, oh. And the energy associated with this is like up here. And he's going pumped. And he's going, hey, Stuart, is it all right if I change some of my action plan? I go, yeah. So I've got a copy of my book. I crossed out a couple of things. And he goes, can I talk to you tomorrow? I go, sure.
Yeah.
3 days in a row, he brings me.
The interesting thing is what you did with him, and again, you're an extremely experienced coach. You've been doing it a long time. What you did with him, your coach did with you.
Yeah.
And this lesson alone for him, if he goes from middle manager to become a general manager, all of a sudden he goes, and that worked for me. Now I'm going to do it with everyone else. He's got a team of people that he's working with and growing and developing in the right manner because he's used a structured process to go through his own goal attainment. So, I absolutely love that. So, that's really, really good. But what we'll do is we'll put up a worksheet on the website, and also the place where you get or download your favorite podcast place, and so that way people can see that grow model. Because obviously, a lot of people in the world are visual as well. Me being one of them, it's quite hard to understand. But if you can see it in front of you, you understand it's not that complicated to go through the process. You've just got to follow the bouncing ball. So we'll get that worksheet up on the website so people can have a look at that. They can download it, have a play with it. I'm sure you like me are open to a phone conversation, an email, whatever. Absolutely. If anyone wants to get in touch. So our details, we'll put our details up there so we can do all that. But wow, what a great episode! I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no,
we found it.
You know, we're even starting to sound smart, Marty. I'm wondering what the hell's going on here.
That's definitely a miracle. So, although it's not for us to judge on that, is it? So maybe someone else can say.
No. I think the miracle happens when we start looking good. That's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, that is another conversation. So, as always, like we said, the worksheets will be up from the episode. Will be up on the website. So wherever you get your podcast from, jump on there. We'll put the link there as well. So really, the first thing you got to do is go download that stuff, and that can be your first goal. So if you do that in the next 24, 48 hours, then you've achieved the goal. Well done.
And shoot us a line if you want someone to talk to. We're happy to throw some coaching pieces in for you. Absolutely. And we might even throw a couple of books online for the guys to have a look at, Marty.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking and this is not great because I shouldn't be thinking and listening and trying to talk at the same time. So, smart, but there's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. The best part is in male, I guess we get to turn around to females and say, you cannot multitask. You're just better at switching from one task to the other better than we are as males. So,
okay, I recommend reading it. Dangerous territory, buddy. I'm not playing in this game. Territory. Yeah, exactly. Good on you.
But yeah, we'll put those up as well. But we'd also love to hear people's feedback. Even topic suggestions. If there's something that you'd like us to talk about, then absolutely write the comments, send us an email, whatever we can do to help. Then definitely let's get after it. So. Again, Stuart, thanks, mate, for everything. Always fun.
All right, Marty. Well done.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. And I guess just get out there. Yeah.
What are we doing next week? What's the story next week?
We are going to do, that's a very good question. What do you want to do next week?
I think we were talking, we had a conversation the other day. I reckon we should have a go at becoming better influencers as human beings. How do we become better influencers? And I think we can break that down into a couple of different topics, but we're going to talk about what becoming influential is and a couple of key elements of that. That's something we can expand out over a couple of weeks, as you know. But
yeah, definitely.
you know, one of the things that I learned as a human being is don't confuse talking with communication. Don't confuse communication with influence. They are different pieces of
really
information. And if I want to become an influencer, which means not only people listen to what I'm saying, but have a tendency to think about doing something about it, that's a completely different conversation. And that takes some real technique and skill, and certainly ones I had to learn a lot about in my job and my role, and love to share some of that conversation with the people as we go forward.
Yeah, fantastic. Great idea. Let's definitely get on that. So, but in the meantime, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, get out there, think and create the world that you want for yourself. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, Stu.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. See you soon, guys.